And so now we listen to Basalt Suit. Basalt is a writer and researcher based in Brooklyn and the Bay Area. Their first manuscript in progress, Earth Intelligence, forms the poetics of exhausted soil, mined sand, and militarized islands from the detritus of the US war machine. Their work has been supported by by Tin House Summer Scholarship, Millet Arts, and named a finalist for Wendy's Subway's Carolyn Bush Award. At CAV, Organizing Asian Communities, they work to rupture organized real estate in NYC. Please welcome Basalt.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Emmy, to Rachel, and I think Marion, who is not in this room, but was part of putting this together as well. And yeah, to Jerome, to Kite, and especially to Ryan for putting us in conversation. It feels like an honor to just be part of this chapbook with so many people I've studied with, who I've learned so much from and have shaped my poetry over the years. I think before I get into some of the poems, I wanted to maybe orient us a little bit in the lexicon. And I think a lot of the poem that's homed in this chapbook comes out of a manuscript I'm working on that's called Earth Intelligence. I came to the set of writing by way of islands that have been part of my maternal lineage for generations, and these islands are located off of the southern coast of Taiwan. And these islands are part of an archipelago of a mix of what maritime law would call inhabited and uninhabited islands, which really the legal categorization doesn't capture the ways where there are islands where people make their lives across seasons, and then there are islands that are primarily nesting grounds for birds that come to nest, that deposit their poop, which turns out to be a very valuable commodity called guano, and fertilizes soil, exhausted soil, across different empires. But historically, these quote-unquote uninhabited islands were actually sacred sites and served as navigational points and fishing grounds, and fishermen would come to visit these islands to fish and pay tribute. And this is actually a pattern not just in these islands that my grandparents are from, but actually in the Kanaka Maoli diaspora and the Okinawan diaspora. I look for my grandparents' islands every single time I see a map, and I notice that every time these islands do show up very clearly on a map, this map is a military map. And so, for instance, maps of Dutch forts where Chinese fishermen were conscripted to build. You can flip to the next one. This is one example. I traced out the shape, which is very phallic and feels fitting for empire, but there are maps from Japanese colonization, and these are maps of colonial ports that were used for weapons shipments and warships. And then maybe the next slide. Maps that legitimize authoritarian regimes that are backed by the US and create these sites for military drills. And I think a question that threads through the poems that I'm going to be reading today is what does it do to a place when it is entirely seen through the lens of military strategy? And next slide, please. Thank you, Ami. The U.S. military returns to the jungle, training for a very different threat. And this is a headline that actually was published in the New York Times, I think 60 days after the start of the Al-Aqsa flood. Far from the deserts of the Middle East, the Army instructs troops in Hawaii on the drills needed for a potential clash with China. In order to wage war, it is absolutely necessary to train. In order to train, it is absolutely necessary to prepare the land. To prepare the land, it is absolutely necessary to strip or to desolate it through various means, or to find land that has already been desolated, is uninhabited, deserted, barren. Land as an international legal category, made proprietary. Archipelago as military strategy betrays a structure of codependency, while effacing the nodes to which a mainland vampirically attaches its stubby little fangs. Guano Island, uninhabitable rock, key little specks, barren outcropping, reef, shelf, atoll, bank, key, coral reef, and specks of flowers quiver in ash fields like tracks and tracks of flags. You can stay on this one. The one before. Oh, the one before.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. They came by ship. The vessels were ready to load. After all, they made.
Can the super technological state operate without electricity or power, without water, transport, communications, sewage systems, utilities?
A discovery. After all, they made a whole boatload of homesick bodies into an island of unhinged bone. The boats left home hungry for islands. The boats came cleared of unhinged bone. The loans came back to
The
Rome.
fundamental tenet of all military geography is that every feature of the visible world possesses actual or potential military significance.
Home came back dust whitened as a belly stowed with stunk songs outgrown. And songs came back scraped clean of lungs, and what was soft remained eaten with acid. See acid for
The British have long discussed the desirability of access to ports along the Chinese coast as bases for trade and the armed forces, and administrators ruminated that a permanent base near the coast would provide military protection to British subjects conducting business in China.
oil and soil for growing the living. So soil comes home with the dead. The dead come back in songs, and song in groves, ground, groves. Okay. Next one. So this is the poem that shows up in the chapbook, but yeah, I think the word uninhabited evokes blankness and silence, when in fact a lot of these nesting grounds were really loud and dense with sound, because there's a lot of birds, and birds like to talk to each other. Ocean is really loud. The wind is really loud on these islands. And so I wanted to invite us to experiment a little bit with the density here. I'm gonna hum, and then I'm gonna invite you all to hum with me. And when I go like this, we can seize. So let's try this once. You can fluctuate up and down. Take a breath if you need. Louder, softer. Thank you. Let's try this for the duration of the poem. So I'll start humming, invite you all, and I'll start reading. Steered by open skies, the land here is surrounded by birds. Day in, day out, they call, they dive into the sea, take off with the breeze, shake off the water, skim the draft, skip the wind, ride the brush of wings above the groaning water. They call, they scold, they cry, they flirt, they pry, they alert, they dance the sky, they fence the rubble, they make a mess, attack the hat, they bite the fist, the shovel, the pistol, the horse, the goat. They spot the fish or squid or, God forbid, the rats. They fence off the light, they work up their wings, they beat up the dust, dry wind bristles, recalls the fighting cats, the grind of teeth of bats in rage, a chorus of doves splits the sun, cleaves goals from demons, unearths a scream, an unoiled door swings open to the underworld, lets in the thieving rats. The land bleach bright by the sun. The land swarmed with flies of the plague. The rats march in, pressing an ear and a tooth to the soft belly of a bleeding goat. Thank you. And then I'll read one last one. The straight line is the militaristic line. The sharp edge is the colonizing edge. With you, I turn the corner.
Thank you, Basalt.
Thank you.
And now we listen to Asiya Wadud. Asiya is a writer, most recently of the poetry collections Mandible, Wishbone, Solvent from the University of Chicago Press, 2024. No Knowledge is Complete Until It Passes Through My Body from Nightboat Books, and the chapbook Like Thread Love, Like Rubble, Like Excess from Belladonna. Other recent work can be found in Interlude Docs, Poetry, eFlux Journal, and the Dance Space Project Journal. Recent works have been supported by Foundation for Contemporary Arts, Foundation Jan Michalski, Text in Talo Helsinki, and Dance Space Project. Welcome, Asiya.
Hi everyone. It's nice to see you. Thank you so much, Emmy and Rachel and Basalt and Nicole and all of you for being here. I don't have too much to say in terms of context, but I'm going to read, I think, some works in progress. They're all works in progress, apart from the piece that appears in the chapbook, A Sound Answers a Sound. After him to the strange. 1. Position towards errant futures, calculations of cave matter, stalagmites in preservation, logic burnished, roped, trifold. 1 plus the polished seam plus the gold leaf corner meets 1, a series of 1-to-1, levels the diadem, to merge the scalpel and the cleave, wayward pendulum, supplemental drift, and divisible by the equatorial partition, the fragment, it was cleaned by the lake, it was washed in the current. +1, hover here and let the cumulus drift rise, send the threaded edge to November, need to fray, fret the edge, bifurcated, cut by a series of triangularities, and series and corners loosen. We each rest the pendulum, the sodden years. Once the corners loosen, amen. Take 2 corners, bear the weight of the diagonal. What needs the limber hold will let loose, let it drift. Once we position the luxury of 1 more year, errant future, vacuous acuity, then trim the lavish excess. Actually, it's not true. I'm not reading all works in progress because these 3 are all published, which means like they're not in progress anymore, or at least they're here. So I'm just gonna read what I'm reading. Day 3, position, thrill, like lifted, as in diptych, like peak, or final frame. The hand acts as attrition, cutlass, thrill, wave, breath. Cyclical burden, which was lifted, then framed, now low, as in the luxury of you, as in enough, like thread love, like crumble, such excess, like augment or contour, questions raised to conjecture. A gesture from inside the rift forms the end of an open comma, operatic, anybody's lodestar. Breathe the frame, now inverted in porcelain, blank box where inquiry would live. Reads the vertical, the lateral distance, patterning the blank box for thrill, for heaven, for equatorial, for ascension. Open wounds wound around the center, the source already levitates, breaches the ocean's southern cavity, the oracle is still lifted, carries the last of the headwind. More oracle than forgiveness, who now moves with us, let the false flag become witness. Number 4. Everything we have made halved in its own colloquial guardianship. The drained lake, the felled castle, the timber of a lone voice not ever disturbed, the fist of new snow on its way to melting, well coagulating blood type O. All fallen sutures felled for unbearable reasons, unsystematic in its approach, steadfast in its sediment. To reach the kingdom before the only gate clenched, iron on iron and final, febrile in its will to be ocean, in its will to only want ocean, to say black but mean ocean. An embryo rests in the cavity, cleaned and called now womb. To go there is easy, you have been my want. All desire fostered among us, the supplier passes the iodine through me, clears the canal for anything. Every recoil is my own absent want, mine and not to be mine. I am a thimble of O blood cells bluffing each time. To let other objects pass through me, it is possible for the tender wish to become a bone, to beckon, to tend the animal and to temper it. If I were my own arid island, I would know the word for it, would call it an island that would have me, though the room gives way to gray space, like the wish for any promise, prim and ill-used, a storage locker of unpaid bills and auction objects. If I were my own island, I would succumb to its measure. It lurches, how granular, its weighted scale becomes finality. Any blastocyst can live in deference, then die. Extend any glib shadow, stretch the distance, then go be all the animated future then. Any body can read the threadbare clock, its second-hand proclamation succumbs to all 12 hours. Any want rings the circle, bears down with its one mouth, makes for want inside better want, made subterfuge, airtight container. It cannot lean less, it hangs in the plaza, crescendo, blue, oh. Okay, this is new. That was new too. Okay, so. Body double in blue. The near position, the rock, the ready-made, the alder, the placement, the portrait, the shunting, the leaven bread, the meager offering, the lake, the velvet sea, the mended, the curb, the subterranean windows that bleed future, prismatic quiet, the cusp of stillness, the cusp of want. Accepted the offering, embryonic and weakly, amniotic and lingering. Rustling beneath is steadfast want, crumbling shelf of teeth and temperature, the B-train passenger who silently overdosed on my morning commute, the two men who pulled his limp body from the train car, the three kids who photographed his body, needle still in the soft bend of his arm. I got to work and called in sick, left and sat still in the park. Every step surrendered to another gasp of evening's glow, the extension, slow burn of Nordic light, an arrowhead and governing. To need all 24 hours to make the day, it's one a vacant subterfuge, forgiveness in the shadows, embryo's heartbeat measured through the cord, 181 beats per minute. A cough wakes them on the ultrasound image, performing babyhood for me and my pleasure witness. In praise, I have measured all the corners of want and needled their slow erasure, grip the white curtain of surrender, let time live out its own accretion, suffuse my time to measure the weeks, restless praise for every day. Like how come these words want me? What can I make of their need, their intrusion in my life, the stones that cough up dust and what I'd forgotten. The 10th active shooter drill, the threat comes from within. The kids know now to be still, we have normalized the violence. Huddled as in, we don't exist here, me closest to the door, all the lights out and the windows covered. In praise, I have measured all the corners of want, watched the baby's eyes take shape, imbued with the logic of 24 hours, how the axis spins, its webbed forces. This year and all the years, men enter buildings, sidewalks, the densest places, to shatter windows, unabated, they enter. AR-15s draped like work bags, the weapon struts and reloads, come to know the bellicose nation, once called it an offering, made in its displacement of original want. Like how come these words want me? What can I make of their need, their intrusion in my life, the stones that pile to act as faltering levee? Every lone child lost in the flood, the ones left cursing the flood map, all decadence left along the belligerent shoreline. Rustling beneath is steadfast want, crumbling shelf of milk teeth and centigrade, the B-train passenger who silently overdosed on my morning commute, the two men who pulled his limp body from the train car, rested it on the cool platform, the three kids who photographed his body, needle still in the soft bend of his arm. I got to work and called in sick, left and sat still in the park. Let the shadow of me be. In praise, I have measured all the nature of want, needled its imprint, gripped the white curtain of surrender, let time live out its own accretion, pared down all hollow want to a hollowed shell, sunk the pearl elsewhere and circled its remnant. Days later, I took roses to the site where the passenger was carried from the B train, needle still in his arm, everything governed by the jurisdiction of days, incendiary violences and matte cravings, the flowers without their antecedents. And the flowers instead went home, where for 7 days they lived then died. All the ghosts of want and one's own ghostly creature became a cave, steadfast in its promise to submit to an afterlife. In 2008, Jordan was shot in a botched robbery. He crawled down his block as he bled out. Yesterday, I checked to see if his killers were out on parole, only to know the murder is still a cold case. Amidst every other violence, one violence bleeds into the intervening years. From the center through the threads, each exacting footprint, a theory for time spent and keyed, looped into one fold. His parents plead for anything. The opening space breathes its known condition, prepares the windows to receive the arid treatment. Known months speak directly to the violence, act as subterfuge in island conditions. The original wound that won't heal, the knowing that its condition passes for leakage. The membranes suffer the silence, so let the shadow of me be. All the profiles of me leaving before sunset, the exit bears the witness. Thank you.
Thank you, Asiya. And now we listen to Nicole Wallace. Nicole Wallace's first chapbook, Wasa Woman, was published by IMP in 2019. Their second chapbook, Anon Gunsag, is forthcoming from Auric Press. They are a second-generation descendant of the Fond du Lac band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe, and are of mixed settler European ancestry. Nicole is the executive director of the Poetry Project and board member of Indigenous Nations Poets. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Emmy, and thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you, Asiya and Basalt. It's so nice to hear you read. Asiya. I've known Asiya for a long time, so it's really nice to be able to read together. Okay, I usually read standing up, so I'm just going to try to do this, sitting down. Okay, I'm going to read my poem that was published in the chapbook. It's called Gama, Gae, or Maybe. No salty pearl tangled hair, half braided in July monsoon. Transom sweetgrass, this brood, beings made of turmoil, lucky sevens, deli sandwiches. Thrive along disturbed edges, this comfort in this disturbed edge. Rosebush and Donis, Minawa, Nijo, and Gozakasag. Their backs are used for climbing up into the window. No keys for locks, illusions of ownership. Some nights I do not sleep. I switch the lamps from brightest to dim. No matter the time, the sky outside, the window is either blue or purple and then electric. At 4 or 5 a.m., baby ferns grow from the base of a tree. Beijig, Nij, Niswe. They call and call these songs. Necessary chaos. Wasamoan, Gama, Gae, Wasagan. I go to the water at Nagachi Wanang, and 3 of 5 cups spill in. If you take something, you must give something back. Gama, Gae, Ninimoshin. I am thinking of you. You, then, in waves and waves. Right. I'm going to read the last poem in my chapbook, Wasamoan. It's called My Girl, My Girl. Named after a street, conceived after a kegger. The further away we get, this fine dark hair curls to ringlets. Muckade, Widabe. This fire pulled from the river. Gitchi Zibi Oma Oma Gakabakong. Nicole is not who I thought she was, and I don't yet know the word for Gawin Mashe Ingakinamasi Nimbaba. I just laid on the floor for a while. The problem is I can do whatever I want, and I'm not supposed to know how to say I don't know in the first place. Let the wind in on nights like this. illusion of clouds moving through the sky. Nothing more lonesome than that lonesome fucking Dutch painting you like so much. Her hair next to our bed. Do you like conflict? Let it in, this humidity. Look at the lights coming down through the trees, my girl. The way it looks pink and gray between the sun and this morning on Wyckoff. This exhaust. How do you say the flowers fell down from the trees? Be more specific, my girl. Learn your grammar, my girl, my girl. I'm learning, I say. Ogini Wandig, pink roses on the pillowcase. Good fortune comes and comes and comes, and I don't know what's good for me, but oh so deeply. Elemental pressures, beautiful stones. The strength card comes up. It says, take the lion by its face, my girl. Learn your grammar. Look down into its sides, down into it. Apane, 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 individuagaze. And I want to get on top, but I'm just so tired. Let the wind brush over it. Bad judgment comes and comes, my girl. You're learning what it means. Wabig wanun, gi pangisanun, mittaguk. When the flowers fall from the trees. Gisana oma minawa, nodanog, this cold snap. It's a myth, Laura says. The smell of $6 shirts, the light coming down through the trees, the grass. Nicole is not who I thought she was, my girl, all this green. Owajawaskwe inda. I'm going to read just like 2 more poems from my new manuscript, which is small, but it's called Anungunsag. Wabanung. Release me, and that's not a wish, it's a demand. A humidity that's unbearable. Looking to what I figured was the east, I watched the colors. Coral, orange stucco, small glass pane windows reflecting. I was finding the words to describe a feeling, a betrayal. It was so cold and peaceful when time, free and wretched, not a preference, but a fact. What needs tending in your wake? It goes, Mewaja, from the time before. I would not call this forgiveness, and I don't care because, as you recall in here, I move in my own time. 10 of swords, the devil, the tower, and then fitful, the sleep was over. Don't give up on me because I'm too difficult, Nicole, to know when to let the knife cut clean. A grueling love, Mewaja. This one's called Jawanung. Between what and the dark they're forming. I can sit here all day pruning branches, my love, to bring in. Wood greened with mosses and overgrowth that goes nowhere. It came to pass, I wanted to go away to a place for a while, outward into something. Engi oja zibing. An unpredictable body accumulating darkness, and I became a current, a different kind of current. A repair that felt like an undoing, a question that came with consequence. Gikandasawin. If you were expecting to find here what you had earlier found, if you were expecting what you thought you might find, you will not find it here. A night with no reflection and axis with no stars. Use your words. Ikadoan, minu ikadoan. Cut by the page, cut by the card, cut by the fraction. Cut the deck. Gikindaswin. What writes the story? Life take me back, though others were present, days have passed. Where is the miraculous change promised by an astrological event? Gi Kendaswan Mino Ikadoan Indigo. Pink flowers at the corners everywhere I go. Miigwech.
Thanks, everybody. The day is done. You can find copies of the chapbook at the CARA table M5.
Yeah.
Yes, M5. Though they may kick us out starting now. So if you're here tomorrow, you can also find it from the CARA website and the CARA bookstore on 13th Street. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.